Royal drama script, simplified version for years. Camilla was one of the most hated people around the royal family. But since she and Charles got married back in 2005, people started liking her more. He gave up everything for her. His first marriage, his good reputation, even his peace of mind. And now, while King Charles is fighting cancer behind palace doors, the woman he trusted most is caught laughing with another man. One photo, one moment. That's all it took to shake up the whole kingdom. She looked happy, but not with him. A royal insider whispered. The garden where they used to walk together now hides secrets and shadows. And as people talk more and more, the king's heart gets weaker. Not just because of the gossip, but because of the betrayal that everyone saw. The photo that exposed Camilla. In the warm days of June 2025, the royal gardens were full of bright flowers, their sweet smells floating in the soft sunlight. Everything seemed peaceful around the royal family until one shocking photo turned the calm into total chaos. Far away from all the noise, King Charles III was resting at Sandringham, weak and tired from his cancer treatment. He was 76 and had been fighting prostate cancer with all his strength, even as his body suffered from the harsh effects of chemotherapy. But while the king rested quietly in his room, hoping to get strong again and go back to his royal duties, the outside world was whispering and then shouting. The whispers started with one single photo, blurry, taken from far away, taken secretly. It was enough. It showed Queen Camilla in the western gardens of Highgrove House, their beautiful countryside home. The trees there were thick and green, cut neatly, and the summer sun danced between the leaves. In that photo, Camilla stood smiling in a soft floral dress, her silver hair pinned up neatly like always. In her hand, she held a fancy little teacup. And standing very close beside her, bending down like he was sharing a quiet secret, was a man, tall, gray-haired, and wearing the kind of clothes a gardener might wear. People online looked closely at the photo. They zoomed in. They guessed. And soon they decided who the man was. Rupert Elling. Rupert wasn't just any man. He was a famous garden designer and an old friend of Camilla's. His wife had died in a car crash many years ago. He and Camilla had worked together before at charity events, royal garden designs, and environmental causes. They've always had chemistry, one user wrote. Look at the way she's leaning toward him. Then the newspapers jumped in. The Mirror, known for grabbing attention with dramatic stories, shouted a loud headline across its front page. While the king rests, who is keeping the queen company at Highgrove? That headline went viral instantly. People on social media went crazy. Posts popped up everywhere. Is Camilla having a secret romance? One person asked. Another said she stood beside him like a young girl in love. Someone else posted, first Diana, now Charles. History really likes to repeat itself. Photos from the past started showing up. One showed Camilla and Rupert together at a 2018 charity event. They were laughing, looking so comfortable that it made people wonder. Old friends don't smile at each other like that, a comment read. Another post dug even deeper. In 2011, when King Charles was on tour in Canada, Camilla was seen having dinner alone with Rupert in Bath. No guards, no staff, just them. Screenshots flew across the internet. Tweets turned into long threads, and hashtags like hashtag Camilla Affair and hashtag Royal Scandal again shot to the top of trending lists. She once broke a marriage, someone commented. Is she about to break another? TV shows, news websites, and podcasts from the UK to the US picked up the story. American media, always excited about royal drama, started calling it a mirror of the past. Camilla was once the other woman, one reporter said. Is she now facing her own twist of fate? They even brought back Princess Diana's famous words from her 1995 interview. "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." That quote spread like wildfire, reminding everyone of the pain Diana went through. And now many said that Charles might be feeling the same, but the palace stayed quiet. They simply said, "We don't respond to personal gossip." Yet the silence didn't help. People kept talking. "It's the silence that speaks the loudest," a royal expert on TV said. On BBC and Sky News, royal watchers argued fiercely. Some said it's just an innocent moment between old friends. Others warned, in a time when the king is sick, even a small crack in the image of the royal family could make people lose trust. Some people felt sorry for Charles. "He's been through so much," one lady told a reporter. "He lost his mother. He's sick now. He might lose his peace too." Others were harder on Camilla. "She once caused heartbreak," someone posted. "And now, maybe she'll understand what that feels like." Old videos of Diana were shared all over again. Old photos too. Her smile, her sadness, her quiet strength. "Diana never really left us," someone wrote under a picture of her. "And her shadow still lives in that palace." Supporters of Diana started reposting memories, saying things like, "Maybe this is her justice." Some even added, "Camilla wore the crown but never earned the love." As people argued online, some pointed to small clues. "Look at her body language," one post said. "She's leaning in like she feels safe with him." Another said, "You don't drink tea like that unless you're too comfortable." Meanwhile, inside the palace, everything stayed quiet on the outside. But behind closed doors, it must have been stormy. People imagined Charles holding the newspaper, seeing the photo, and closing his eyes in pain. Doesn't he deserve peace? Someone asked. He fought for love, for health, for his place on the throne. Theories grew. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's something. But with the royal family, nothing is ever truly simple. A reporter said during a live broadcast. Even children whispered in schoolyards. "Did the queen get a boyfriend?" one asked. "No, it's just gossip," another replied. But even the young felt the mystery and tension. For some, it was just another royal scandal. For others, it was a sign of something deeper. Old wounds still bleeding under shiny crowns and velvet robes. Some wrote, "Even in a palace, hearts can break." And others simply asked, "Is this the price of being royal?" To find the truth, one would have to go far back through years of secret talks, hidden letters, and guarded smiles. Because in the world of kings and queens, even the smallest moment, like a photo, a laugh, or a glance, can change everything. Was the queen simply sharing tea with a friend under the summer sun? Or was this a moment that showed more than anyone was ready to admit? Only time would tell, but one thing was clear. While the flowers bloomed in the royal garden, a storm had already started to grow. The secrets and friendship. In a quiet cafe, tucked away in London, far from flashing cameras and royal guards, an elderly woman sits near the window, hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea. She's around 60, with soft silver hair tied back, and eyes that shine with sadness. Her voice shakes slightly as she remembers her time working for Queen Camilla. "I was with her for more than 20 years, she says gently, back when everyone still called her the Duchess of Cornwall." Her voice gets quieter, but her words are filled with emotion. She always looked so strong in public, head held high, smile fixed. But behind the curtains, she was lonely. The palace isn't all gold and glory. It can be cold. It can be silent. Sometimes I'd find her standing alone in the garden, just thinking. Each year, when the flowers started to bloom and the wind carried the smell of fresh earth, Camilla would reach out to one person, Rupert. He was her spring, the woman says softly, eyes misty. They would walk in the woods, and talk about flowers, old times, and the days before royal life. She laughed differently when she was with him. It was like the real her came out, even just for a moment. One moment stands out in the old woman's memory. It was 2011. King Charles, then still Prince, was on a serious diplomatic trip in Canada, talking politics and climate with world leaders. But Camilla chose to stay back in England. She went to a countryside art show in Bath, something she truly loved. It was peaceful, beautiful, and the event was hosted by none other than Rupert Elling, a respected garden artist known for turning landscapes into magic. They had dinner afterward, the maid recalls, at a tiny place called Le Bistro. I remember it clearly because no royal guards were with her that night. No aides, just the two of them. Photos taken long ago, now shared again by people online, show Camilla sitting at a cozy table, candles flickering around her. She's smiling, holding a glass of red wine, listening closely to Rupert as he tells a story. She looked happy, the servant whispers, like someone who had stepped outside the royal gates for a little while. The room they ate in had old stone walls, soft music playing in the background. They sat tucked in the corner, faces glowing in candlelight, talking for hours. Was it just two friends? People now ask. Or was there more hidden beneath polite smiles and flower talk? The story goes deeper. In 2014, during a chilly spring night in Camilla's favorite Scottish home, Burke Hall, a lovely place surrounded by hills and quiet waters, something unusual happened. The maid remembers it clearly. Camilla had gone into her room early, but she hadn't closed the door fully. I heard her laughing, the woman says. She was on a video call. I peeked in just a little, and I saw Rupert's face glowing on the screen. Camilla called him my green soul. The name was soft, sweet. She giggled like a schoolgirl. She talked about her royal duties, her stress, and how sometimes she felt trapped. Life behind those palace walls is not always a fairy tale, the maid adds. She told him everything, her fears, her dreams, even things I never heard her say. To Charles, Rupert spoke in a deep voice, sharing stories about his garden projects, and they both laughed at memories from long ago. Before the call ended, Camilla smiled and said, "You always know how to calm my storms." Later that year, Rupert sent her a painting as a gift. It was called June Evening Garden. The artwork showed a sunset glowing over trees and flowers, with soft orange skies melting into green fields. It was breathtaking. She loved that painting, the maid says. She hung it right outside King Charles's study. No one could hang anything in that hallway unless she gave permission. People now wonder, did Charles ever stand there, eyes on that painting, and feel something strange? Did he know who made it? Did he ever wonder why it hung so close? Maybe. He knew, some online users say. Maybe he just chose to ignore it. Now with that old photograph of Camilla and Rupert in the garden recently discovered, people are putting the pieces together. On social media, videos pop up every hour with titles like "The Queen's Other Companion," and is history repeating? There is no proof of anything wrong, no clear act of betrayal. But the closeness, the warmth, it's hard for people to ignore. She leaned on him in ways she never leaned on others, one video claims. He wasn't just a friend. He was her safe place. As these memories come back up, the world is once again questioning the Queen. She was once the reason a princess cried, a comment reads. Now maybe the pain is coming back around. Some believe Camilla is now lying awake at night, thinking about it all. Does she feel regret? The maid wonders. Or does she just miss simpler days? Maybe she's angry that people still question her loyalty. Maybe she feels misunderstood again. Or maybe she's remembering quiet walks through gardens, Rupert's laughter, and a time when her heart felt free. She loved nature, because it didn't judge her, the maid says. And maybe Rupert reminded her of that. People online say, it's not about cheating. It's about closeness, about connection. And when you marry a king, even friendship can become dangerous. In the world of royalty, everything is watched. Every word, every step, and even old paintings and quiet dinners can cause storms. She was once called the other woman, the maid, says, standing up to leave. Now people ask, did she ever stop being one? The story isn't finished, and the next part might be the most dramatic yet. Cracks in the crown. Clarence House stood tall and quiet in the heart of London, its old stone walls holding stories that stretched back through time. In June 2025, King Charles came back to this palace earlier than anyone expected. He had just spent weeks resting at Sandringham, trying to recover after painful cancer treatment. He still looked weak, his face pale, his steps slow as he walked the cold marble floors. But inside him, something stronger than sickness was growing. Doubt. He had seen the photo, the one everyone was talking about. Alone in his study, he sat behind a grand desk, holding the printout in his shaking hands. It showed Camilla in there, garden with Rupert Elling, her smile, her soft tilt toward him. The image was blurry, but the feeling was sharp. The photo burned like fire in his chest. Without waiting, he called for her. Number, staff, no assistance. Just him and Camilla standing in the middle of a storm that was now too big to ignore. He looked at her, eyes filled with pain. Do you know what they're saying about us? His voice was rough, torn between sadness and anger. They're laughing at me, at you, at us. From the news stands to the internet, the Queen's secret friend. Where's the king while she smiles with another man? It's everywhere. Camilla stood near the window, staring at the garden outside. Roses bloomed in the summer sun. She didn't speak right away. Her shoulders were stiff, her face tired. When she finally replied, her voice was soft but steady. It was just Rupert. You know him. We've been friends since long before this life. We were talking about gardens, that's all. You know how much that means to me. Charles rose from his seat, pushing the chair back with a loud scrape that echoed through the room. Talking? He snapped. You don't talk in secret corners while your husband is fighting illness. You don't smile like that with someone else in our private garden. You don't go out to dinner with no security, no staff, like you're hiding something. He held up the photo again. This looks like more than friendship, and you know it. Camilla turned around, her cheeks red, her hands clenched tightly by her sides. Her voice rose, filled with fire. And what exactly are you accusing me of? Being close to someone who's always been kind to me, someone who reminds me of a world that didn't follow me with cameras and cruel names? Her voice trembled as she continued. You talk about trust. You, the same man who once asked me to stay close to him while he was married to another woman, when I was nothing but a scandal in the papers. I stood by you when the whole world wanted to tear me apart. And now, one picture, a blurry moment, and I'm suddenly a villain again. Charles slammed his hand on the desk. The sound was loud, making the books on the shelf tremble. I gave everything for you, he shouted. I stood in front of the world and took the blame. I fought my family. I faced my sons. I destroyed what I had, all because I believed in us. He stepped closer, his voice low and sharp now. But this photo, it's not just a picture, it's a message. It tells the world something I don't know if I can defend. And if you humiliate me like this again, Camilla, it won't just ruin this marriage. It'll tear apart the fragile forgiveness we've worked so hard to earn. He paused, his chest rising and falling fast. Do you know whose name they're saying again? Diana's. They've dragged her back into this mess like a ghost. Camilla's face changed. Her eyes glistened. Her mouth tightened, as if holding back words too sharp to speak. "I gave up so much for you," she whispered. "My reputation, my peace, my family. I lost myself to stand next to you, and now you're turning your back on me over a photo, after everything." For a moment, the room was silent, except for the ticking clock on the wall. Outside, the wind moved through the garden, rustling the trees that once brought peace. Charles looked down at the photo again. His hands trembled. "I just can't be mocked again," he said quietly. "Not after Diana, not after all the pain." Camilla closed her eyes. "I'm not trying to hurt you," she said, "but I can't live like a prisoner. Rupert is a friend, not a secret. I've never hidden my love from you. Don't turn friendship into something ugly." But Charles didn't reply. The photo still lay between them like a wall. Not clear, not certain, but sharp enough to cut. And as the king and queen stood on opposite sides of the room, one broken by memory, the other shattered by blame, neither could say what hurt more, the past, the present, or the fear that everything they had built might be falling apart once. Again, Camilla sank into a soft leather chair by the window. Her shoulders shook, not because she did something wrong, but because she felt broken. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she whispered, voice cracking, "You never believed me, did you?" She choked on her words. "Even now, you think I'd betray you. Who do you believe I am, Charles?" Her plea hung heavy, like a stone falling into water. There was no way out of this moment. The love between them felt like a cracked rose, once healed, but now the wound spread wider. She stared into space, her heart aching. Charles left the room quietly, his steps heavy, as if each one carried the weight of his crown and old hurts. Camilla watched him go, eyes empty. She thought about all they had shared, her journey from a quiet life to the spotlight, all she lost when she became queen. And now this, one carefree moment in a sunny garden, cost them dearly. But the fight wasn't done. The tension in the palace grew thicker, like smoke before a fire. Staff exchanged worried looks. Advisors whispered behind closed doors, and everyone could feel the rift growing deeper. Camilla pushed herself up and forced a smile for the world. She had to hide the chaos inside. That night, she went to a fancy auction in Kensington. It was held by the Royal Horticultural Society to raise money for protecting nature. She loved every bit of it. Lovely flowers, gentle talk about plants. One of the items that night was a painting by Rupert Elling. It showed a garden in autumn, with warm colors all around. The room glowed with chandeliers, white tablecloths, and the click of cameras. Rupert joined Camilla at a table. They raised their glasses in a quiet toast. Camilla's lips curved in a smile, but inside she felt torn. Her mind whispered, "Be calm," but her heart trembled. Rupert leaned in and said softly, "Thank you for being here." His words were gentle. "You are the heart that brings my art to life." They seemed harmless, but in the hush of rumors, those words felt like sparks near dry grass. The next morning, the Sun blasted the stage with a loud headline, "Camilla cozy with mystery man. New doubts spark after auction photo." The story twisted everything. Her smile, her quiet conversation. They made it sound like betrayal waiting to happen, and the rumors burst open again. The media saga and everyone's backlash. Early one morning, King Charles sat alone in his private dining room at Clarence House. A pot of tea steamed beside him, and fresh newspapers lay neatly on the table. He took a sip and picked up the top paper. But as soon as he read the bold headline, his hands started to shake. His face turned red like fire. "What nonsense is this?" he growled, crushing the paper in one hand. He stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor, then stormed out of the room and slammed the door so hard the walls echoed. The nearby staff froze in silence. "Get me the lawyers," Charles said sharply. "This ends quietly. No more mess." He didn't want shouting or headlines. He wanted silence, control, and a way out. Behind the palace walls, whispers began. Someone inside, maybe a bitter worker who saw too much, leaked the news. Suddenly, the media exploded with wild stories. Charles and Camilla splitting. King's health failing amid marriage trouble. Diana was right all along. The headlines were loud and unforgiving. The country buzzed with gossip. That afternoon, a serious meeting took place in a secret room deep inside Buckingham Palace. Heavy old paintings watched from the walls, and the long wooden table seemed to stretch forever. The room was cold with tension. No one smiled. Sir Alistair Graham, the king's oldest adviser, with hair like snow and eyes like steel, stood and spoke first. His voice cut through the silence. "Your Majesty," he said firmly, "if you leave her now, the world will say it was always Diana who told the truth. They'll dig up everything again. The cheating, the sorrow, the crash in Paris. Do we really want to open that door?" Another aide added, "The people forgave you once. They won't do it twice. They'll think the crown is falling apart," whispered someone else. "And what of Prince William? His future is tied to yours." The king looked down, gripping the edge of the table. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. The numbers told the story. Polls showed his popularity dropping fast. People were losing faith. The monarchy couldn't afford another storm, not with his health already a concern dot, so the idea of a split was put away like a secret letter. Not because there was love left, but because there was too much at risk. The crown had to come first. From that day forward, things were never the same. Charles and Camilla stayed in Clarence House, but they didn't really live together anymore. Charles took the upper floor. It was quiet, filled with books, soft blankets, and doctor's visits. Camilla stayed downstairs, close to her small garden. She liked to walk there when the weather was soft. They no longer shared meals or trips. The laughter from their early days disappeared. They only showed up together when they had to. Hand in hand, but hearts apart. They smiled for the cameras, but behind the smiles was silence. Camilla spent long hours alone, especially at Highgrove. The rain often tapped gently on the windows, and gray clouds hung low in the sky. She sat curled up on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, tears slipping quietly down her face. "I used to be free," she whispered to herself. "Is this what being queen really means?" She missed simple days, days when she could laugh, walk her dog, or chat with friends without anyone watching. Now everything she said was recorded, every step judged. Her heart felt heavy, like she had traded her life for a title. Charles, too, was not at peace. He spent more time alone than ever. His health grew weaker. He canceled meetings. He stopped writing. He sat in his study for hours, flipping through books about old kings. What would my great-grandfather do? He mumbled more than once. Did he feel this alone, too? Servants noticed the change. "He doesn't speak much anymore," one whispered. "Just stares out the window like he's searching for something he lost." One rainy Tuesday, the wind brushed gently across the stone roof of Highgrove. The sky was pale and weeping. Inside, Camilla stared into the garden, her hand resting on the cold glass of the window. In another room, Charles coughed quietly, then returned to his reading, his face pale and tired. They were in the same house, but their worlds were miles apart. The fairy tale had cracked. The palace lights still glowed. The flags still waved. But inside, behind the locked doors and quiet corridors, two hearts drifted further every day. The rain was falling gently. When Princess Anne arrived without warning, she didn't send anyone ahead. She didn't ask permission. She drove herself through the palace gates, dressed in a plain brown coat with no shiny necklace or crown. Her face was sharp and tired from years of duty. Her boots thudded against the old floors as she stormed down the hallway. She opened the door to Camilla's study without knocking and slammed it shut behind her. The quiet room shook. Camilla sat by the fire reading, her teacup cold on the table. She looked up, startled. Her book dropped to the ground with a soft thud. Anne didn't waste time. Her voice hit like a hammer. "I've kept quiet long enough," she said, eyes like knives. "But don't think I haven't seen everything. I watched from the start when you crept into Diana's life like a shadow." Camilla stood, shaking, holding the edge of the table for balance. "What are you saying?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Rupert is just an old friend. We talk about plants, that's all. Are you accusing me of something I didn't do?" Anne stepped closer, her voice stronger now, filled with pain and rage. "I remember Diana crying at night, alone in those cold palace walls," she said sharply. "I remember how you laughed in private, whispering to my brother while his wife broke apart." Camilla's face turned pale. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she whispered. "You think I have a lover?" "No. Rupert is a piece of my old life, a soft memory. I don't have many of those left." Anne shook her head. "My brother is sick. He can't take more lies. He gave up everything to make you queen. And now you let photos and whispers destroy his name." Camilla's voice rose with pain. "Do you think I want this? To live in a place where I must smile when I want to scream? I gave up my peace, my friends, my past, everything. I don't want another scandal. I only wanted to feel human again." Anne paused. For a moment, her tough face grew still. She looked around the room, her eyes falling on the painting by the window. A calm garden, touched by autumn light. Something about it softened her for a second, but then her voice turned hard again. "Those peaceful memories may feel sweet to you, but they tear open old wounds for the rest of us. People are talking again. My mother built this family with her bare hands and a heart of steel, and now it's cracking." She walked to the door, but turned once more. Her voice was cold and final. "If there's anything left of your dignity, end this before it ruins him. I already lost Diana. I will not lose my brother, too. Don't test me." She left. The door clicked. Shut. Camilla collapsed into her chair, chest heavy, tears spilling freely. The words stung like fire. Her thoughts spun, memories of being called a villain, a thief of happiness, the woman who broke a fairy tale, and now judged again. She looked down at her shaking hands. "Am I always the one blamed?" she whispered to herself. "Why does kindness feel like a crime in this palace?" Somewhere across the city, Rupert Elling sat by his window, his gray hair curled gently, and his fingers brushed across a newspaper folded on the table. His face looked sad. He read the headlines again, the ones filled with lies. "They think I'm her secret," he murmured. After all these years, he stood, heart pounding. He wasn't just a painter. He was a widower, a quiet man who once shared long walks with Camilla, talking about roses and sunflowers. She was the only one who still remembered his late husband's favorite colors. "I can't let her face this storm alone," he said aloud. "Not because of me." He grabbed his coat and headed out, his shoes tapping across the wet stones. The wind blew softly, as if warning him, but his steps were firm. He had something to say before everything shattered. "I owe her that much," he whispered, and somewhere, behind tall walls and ancient portraits, Camilla waited, alone in a room where every whisper became a weapon and every friend a threat. The silent realization. It was a sticky June day in London, the kind that makes your skin feel heavy. The old stones of Clarence House seemed to sweat. Without warning, Rupert arrived by car through the side gate. His face was serious, and sad dot in his hand, He carried a bunch of roses, flowers from the Cotswold Gardens, the kind that reminded Camilla of peaceful green times. Camilla was inside, sitting quietly in the fancy sitting room full of old pictures and dark oak walls. Her voice came out weak when the servant announced Rupert's arrival. She stood, pale and trembling. "Rupert, what are you doing here? You know what people are saying." Rupert came closer, his voice soft yet urgent, like a friend trying to save something precious. "Camilla, I couldn't stay silent. That photo, just a garden moment with you. That's all. But it's blown into something terrible. It hurts Charles, and it hurts you. I came to say I'm sorry, and maybe we can find a way to stop the rumors." Camilla sank into the leather armchair, holding the roses tight. Tears slid down her cheeks. "You don't understand, Rupert. Charles is so sick. Cancer takes everything, both his strength and sleep. He sees betrayal where there is none." Rupert gently took her hand. He spoke quietly about lonely nights after losing his spouse in that 2009 accident, and Camilla responded by sharing how exhausting it was to be blamed again and again for things she never did. "We're only friends," Rupert whispered. "I won't let this friendship ruin your life." His words, honest and kind, were overheard by a servant. Soon the news reached Charles like fire on dry grass. When Charles heard, he lost control. He was weak from treatment, resting at Highgrove House, but this felt like a blow. He stood, face red, hands trembling, and he smashed his teacup onto the table. "She met him here in my own house after everything I've gone through," he roared, ignoring his advisors. Camilla rushed to the door, voice choked with tears. "Charles, please let me speak." Rupert only came to clear things up. Charles's voice thudded through the door. "Go away. I don't want to hear it. You betrayed me." Camilla stood there, devastated. Tears streamed down her face as her heart broke. On the other side of that shut door. Later that night in the silent house, Charles sat alone at the old wooden table. A single lamp cast soft light on his hands and an old leather notebook. With shaking fingers, he wrote words heavy with sorrow. "Diana, you were right. I left you for Camilla. Now I'm paying for it. I am betrayed by the one I gave everything for. Pain is my punishment." The writing looked like a sorrowful confession sent to Diana, his first wife, gone since the crash in 1997. Charles closed the notebook and tears tracked down his wrinkled cheeks. His heart ached with regret, guilt, and an unbearable longing in the stillness of a cold night at Highgrove. King Charles sat alone by a wooden table, the room silent except for the soft rustle of wind through the trees outside. He opened an old brown notebook, its pages worn with age, the one he only wrote in when he couldn't sleep. With shaking hands and tired eyes, he began to write. The dim lamp beside him barely lit the words, but the sadness in his heart guided the pen. "I see it now. You were right," he scribbled. "I walked away from you, Diana. I chose someone else. I shut my ears when you cried. I left you in the cold." His words came slowly, as if every line was pulled from a wound. "Now I feel the weight of that pain. The woman I stood by turned her back on me, too. I gave up everything for her. Now she gives me silence." Tears fell onto the page. "You warned me," he wrote. "You saw the storm before it came. I didn't believe you. I should have listened." He leaned back in his chair, the years heavy on his shoulders. "I wasn't strong. I wasn't fair. I wasn't the man I should have been for you. I broke your heart." It felt like a final letter to someone who could no longer answer. "You're gone, and I'm left with echoes," he whispered aloud. "I see your eyes in every mirror." After this whole moment of realization, King Charles took a drastic action that thrilled everyone. the decision that changed everything. The next morning at Buckingham Palace, the mood was tense. In a large, cold meeting room lined with portraits of kings and queens past, royal advisers gathered. Leading them was Sir Alistair Graham, a man seasoned in crisis. "Your Majesty," they said, "if word spreads that Her Majesty has left, it will cause great damage. We need calm. We can tell the press it was just a private moment, nothing more." But Charles didn't respond. He had already stopped listening. The fire inside him had dimmed. Nothing they said could erase the night before. "She left," he had whispered into his notebook, "and I finally understand what it means to be left behind." Charles sat quietly at the end of the long table, his back straight, but his body weak. His pale face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with pain. He took a deep breath, then said coldly, "I've had enough. She broke my trust.